high spirits in this room right now. Happy Monday, y'all. Glad to see y'all here with us today. We got some good conversive topics to talk about today, but y'all know we're going to start it off with a prayer and scripture from our NAN co-liaison, Katrina.
Good, I almost said morning. Good, I'm so used to Saturday. Good morning, good Saturday morning. God bless everybody that's here tonight. And I hope, let's clear our hearts and our minds and our spirits as we go forward in prayer. At first, we'll read a scripture coming from the NIV version of the Bible, Psalms 23, verses 1 through 6. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right path for his name's sake. And even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We're going to read that again, because somebody in here tonight needs to be reminded of that. That, as they matriculate throughout their week, that the Lord is your shepherd, and you lack nothing because he is your shepherd. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right path for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Let us pray. Dear heavenly and most gracious Father, God, first of all, we honor you, we acknowledge you, we celebrate you for all that you are in our lives, God. We ask right now that you touch each and every young person that is here, God, whether they be a millennial or the generation below the millennials, Lord, or they be above us, Gen X, baby boomers, but whoever is here in the house tonight, Lord, we ask that you touch them from the crown of their head to the soles of their feet, God, that whatever it is that they have before you, God, we ask that you grant their needs and more. God, but specifically for our young people that are here tonight, God, whether they're watching virtually or they're in transit or the huddle is on their mind and they're not physically here, God, we ask that you touch every young person, God, that you keep them covered and protected as they go to and from school or whether it be work, and to and from home tonight, God. We ask that you keep them covered and protected from all safety, from all harm, and anything that may be rising up against them, God, we ask that you cast down. We ask that you meet the needs of the parents, God, of their guardians, Lord, who are covering them in prayer, God, but keeping them connected to right divine organization so that their paths may be made straight, God. We ask that you touch their lives as well, God. Give us parents the strength and the fortitude and the wisdom and the vision to pour into the lives of the young people that we are connected to today. God, we ask all these things in your name. Let our hearts, our minds, our spirits be clear so that we might receive whatever it is that you have for us to receive during tonight's huddle session, Lord. It's in your name we pray. We give you all the praise and the glory always. Amen.
Thank you, Katrina. So I would like to call up our National Director, Dominique Sharpton. Clap it up for our announcements and action alerts.
Good evening, everyone. That was a very powerful scripture, right? It was great. Many of you know National Action Network recently held our historic annual convention at the Sheraton last week, 2 weeks almost. one week ago. It was the largest turnout in the 32 years of the civil rights organization, so that was amazing. We had thousands of people in attendance and featured everyone from dignitaries, elected officials, celebrities, activists, clergy, members of the press, and everything in between. Vice President Kamala Harris delivered the keynote address to an energized audience that filled every corner of the main ballroom. But while we had all these people join us, and while it was an amazing historic event, we know that the work does not end at the convention. We've got a lot of work to do, and so we are gearing up. Next steps are already underway. And if you missed parts of the convention, we're going to have everything up, the full recaps already up on the website. We'll be adding additional things as the weeks persist because we want to keep people engaged. We want to make sure that people understand that that coming out of the convention, there's an action agenda. We know that there's a lot of things at stake, from our voting rights to our health care rights to rights in education and safety and so many other things. And so we can't just convene and leave it there. We all came together to hear from policymakers, to talk about what interests us and what issues are most important to us. And we heard a lot of information on those issues, but now we have to put that into action and say, what are we going to do individually? What are we going to do collectively in order to push that agenda forward? And so on August 26th, all roads are going to lead to Washington, D.C. We know that on the heels of the annual convention, we're kicking off a drive for August 26th. All roads, like I said, will lead to Washington, D.C. For the continuation. Rather than a commemoration, we will have a continuation of the fight for social justice, economic justice, and civil rights and equality. We know that over 50 years ago, they convened on Washington, D.C., and they brought to the heights of America issues like voting rights and things that were not progressing on the agenda of people of color. And so they convened the convenings of Washington, D.C., those making sure that we vocalize the issues that are important to us right from the capital of the United States, right in the home of those who are elected and not selected to make those progress that we want to happen go forward. And so we are convening again on in Washington, D.C., as we did 3 years ago in the midst of a global pandemic to call for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, to call for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. And those bills are things that National Action Network pushed forward to get on the table. So we know that it is possible for us to raise our voice, and we know that our voice speaks volumes. And so we must raise that volume by actually having feet on the ground, and that's what we do. And so on August 26th, we're going to Washington, D.C. We want everybody to make sure that you gear up to join us, because now we're going to take this a step further and say, we're not going to get to this new year. We're not going to have a safe summer. We're not going to go back to school in September or August, depending on where we are in the country, and just roll over and allow for some of these issues to continue to go forward. And so at the end of the summer, we will be convening in Washington, D.C., hopefully by the hundreds of thousands as we did before, time and time again, to say that these issues matter to us, and we want to make sure that all of you are on the front lines with us as we're pushing for change. So all roads lead to Washington, D.C. We'll have more information that will be spewing in the next couple of weeks for you all to get involved and get information. But we are collectively coming together with the Drum Major Institute, and that is convened, of course, by Martin Luther King III and his wife, Andrea King, and National Action Network, and we'll be heading to Washington, D.C. on August 26th. So stay tuned, and also start getting information so that you can start signing your friends and families up, because we want to make sure that we go to Washington, D.C. in large numbers. Justice for Ralph Yarl. Reverend Sharpton and Nan welcomed the mother of shooting victim Ralph Yarl and civil rights attorney Lee Merritt on Reverend Sharpton's MSNBC show, Politics Nation, last weekend. 16-year-old Ralph Yarl is thankfully recovering at home from gunshot wounds after he was shot twice by an 84-year-old white man. Yarl mistakenly went to the wrong house to pick up his younger siblings and nearly lost his life. Ralph's mother and the attorney joined Reverend Sharpton as they continued to call for justice in this horrific shooting. The teen was shot in the head, and then as he was still lying on the ground, he was shot in the upper right arm. Ralph Yarl went to 3 houses until someone finally helped him, according to the family. The shooter was released hours after the shooting and was later charged with 2 felonies, but they weren't able to update everyone on his condition, but the status of the family's call for accountability definitely reigns supreme. We're going to hear more information about this particular case later on in the program tonight by Brother Mo. But for now, we want to just inform you that National Action Network is on the case, and we're fighting for, of course, justice for Ralph Yarl. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Damo. So now I would like to call up our founder, Miss Ashley Sharpton, for our Black History Fact of the Day and our Huddle Report announcements.
Thank you, Giselle. Hello, everyone. Okay, so today's Black History Fact is about the UNCF. Does anybody know what that stands for? UNCF? Nobody? There you go. Say it louder, please. Lakers. United Negro College Fund. Anybody heard of that before? Yeah. Okay, all right. All right. The United Negro College Fund was established on this day, April 24th, 1944. It is one of the most important philanthropic organizations in the country, one that provides scholarships for Black students to attend private historically Black colleges and universities. In the years since its founding, the UNCF has provided hundreds of millions of dollars to students. The organization was incorporated by Frederick D. Patterson, who was then president of Tuskegee University, as well as Mary McLeod Bethune and several others. The UNCF has had some prominent leaders over the years, including former Congressman William Gray, Vernon Jordan, and the current President and Chief Executive Officer, Michael Lomax. The organization adopted a motto in 1972 that will become one of the most widely recognized slogans in advertising history. The motto, "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," won numerous awards. Somebody's phone is ringing. For about 25 years, the UNCF raised large sums of money from a telethon hosted annually by late singer Lou Rawls called the Lou Rawls Parade of Stars. After Rawls' death, the event was renamed an Evening of Stars. So today we celebrate the United Negro College Fund. Let's clap them up. All right, who knows the congressman in this district? That was not a trick question. Nobody knows the congressman here in Harlem or here? Nobody? Who's the congressman here? Nobody knows? Yeah. Nobody knows? SBI, thank you. All right, we're at NAN, right? Are we awake? Y'all all right? Everyone's okay? That's bad. That's not a trick question, Doc. That's supposed to know the Congress. There's not many congressmen of Harlem. All right. Well, Congressman Esbiat announced the launch of the Congressional Art Competition. So for those who are interested in art, this is for them. The 2023 Congressional Art Competition is now accepting entries from high school students. So this is for high school students, your children, your grandchildren, and the ones who are here and watching. From high school students from the New York's 13th Congressional District, this district, for the opportunity to display their winning artwork in the United States Capitol and the district offices of Rep. Adriana Aspiat for up to 1 year, which is a good opportunity. Artwork must be emailed to art.newyork13. Again, that's art.newyork13@mail.house.gov. By this year's deadline, this Friday, April 28th, 2023. Original artwork may include digital submissions of paintings, drawings, collages, and photography, and must be submitted via email along with the student release form. I'm going to leave this information in the front, so if anyone is interested, you can just pick it up and you can enter it. If you're going to do it, good luck and Godspeed. Our last announcement. It's the last Thursday of Legal Night. I already messed it up. The last Thursday of the month, what we do here at the National Action Network is Legal Night. So we are excited, of course, this Thursday at 6:45 for everyone to tune in. Peter Gleason, attorney Peter Gleason is the guest attorney, and he will be speaking on sovereign immunity and civil rights. So again, tune in at 6:45 or join us because we're back in person here at the House of Justice at 6:45 with attorney Michael Hardy. Back to you, Giselle.
It's like on the news. Thank you, Ash. So now I would like to call up Daniel for our Artivism segment. Clap it up for Daniel, y'all.
Good evening, Youth Huddle. We're want to roll into our Artivism segment, and keep in mind there's a lot going on in the world, so let's try to keep ourselves uplifted. The music selection for this evening is a song called Mood Forever. It may be a rerun for some, for others it may be new, so I hope you enjoy the music. If you want to get up and dance, you're welcome to get up and dance. It's a lively song. So can we get the video on? Please let me know when that's ready, gentlemen. It's a fairly long video, so we may or may not have time for the whole video, but please enjoy the music. You might recognize some of that sound from the Lion King cartoon. You guys want the lights out? There's been a request for the lights out. I'm not sure how we can get the video more visible. Is that better, y'all? I hope so.
That's the sound of the price going up.
Forever and never ever and never ever at the Saxon, Medina Suite, like Mandela, bumping fella on the Puma check, like we from Lagos, man, Samusa reincarnated. We on our levels, that's a billy, 1,000 milli. First one to see a B out these housing buildings. I be feeling like Prince in '84, Mike in '79, Biggie in '97, '94, Nas, Ali, Kumbaya, no Kumbaya, just give me the sommelier. I'm on the Taj, helmet on a jet ski. You know the vibes hit my head, forget I'm me. Oh my God, without the God and the XY, I'm afraid the whole game will be colonized. The marathon will be televised with NIP. Cause true kings don't die, we multiply. Peace.
I'm so unbothered. I'll be so pressed while I'm raising daughters, sons of empires. Y'all make me chuckle, stay in your struggle. Crystal blue water, pina colada in. You stay Ramada in, my baby father, bloodline Rwanda. Why would you try me? Why would
So I hope y'all enjoyed that. Y'all are welcome to watch that video independently. It's a very interesting video. Shout out to Beyonce. And I'm going to turn the mic back over to my colleague, Giselle. Thank you, Giselle.
Thank you, Dan. So, I want to see something. Y'all know we do this every Monday, but I feel like I should only be talking to the live people because I feel like everybody in this room, I see y'all almost every Monday. So y'all should all be a member. But I'm going to say it anyways. Is everybody an updated member for the year of 2023? I love that. Have y'all renewed y'all membership? All right. If not, this applies to you, as well as those who are not members. The best way to stay informed and in the action is to become a member of NAN. Stay informed about NAN events close to where you live. Text Justice followed by your state to 59769. Again, text Justice followed by your state to 59769. And also, make sure y'all remember to join us every Saturday for the Action Rally at 9 a.m. Now, before I open the floor up for our good news, I would like to turn it over to Patrice because she has a good news article for us. Clap it up for her, y'all.
Thank you, Giselle. Hello, Huddle family. So, we always tell you about the bad news. I have a little bit of good news to share with you today. So, 2 men who served nearly 17 years in prison after being wrongly convicted in California are declared innocent. Could you imagine? Just like a whole nother case of Brother Corey Wise, who's with us every Saturday. 17 years, their life was ruined. The verdict for Dupree and Juan included a new trial that began in October after a state court panel vacated their convictions, and they were freed in 2020. They were wrongly convicted of attempted murder of an officer in 2004. Wow. The trial should have never been brought in the first place, defense attorney Ani Della said. There was no evidence tying them to the shooting, 0 evidence. The new statute, which took effect in 2020, gives the defense a chance to show that there's a predominance of evidence showing innocence, she said. We proved their innocence beyond a shadow of a doubt. The convictions of Glass and Rayford relied heavily on the testimony of just 2 witnesses who later recanted their story 17 years later. During a 5-year investigation, defense investigators found multiple other witnesses who said, oh no, they weren't the shooters. They never had a gun. Haven't we heard that before? Glass, 36, and Rayford, 37, now both work as drivers for Walmart. Rayford is with his high school sweetheart who waited for him while he was in prison. Both men are now new fathers to baby girls. The Victims' Compensation Board decided to approve the nearly $900,000 in compensation due to each man under the new law. On top of that, defense attorneys plan on suing the state, the county, and the district attorney's office for wrongful prosecution. The district attorney's office didn't immediately respond to a request for comment on the judge's decision. We must stand with these men, and congratulations. After 17 years, but at least some type of justice has been served. So just wanted to share that good news with everyone.
Thank you, Patrice. So, I'm going to open the floor up to our good news. Gino, you want to go first? You got good news? No? You're back. Y'all got good news? Wow. I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted.
I got some good news.
Whoa. Okay.
Myself and my group We'll be at the Queens Library on Thursday, April 28th. The Collective, we will be there with Deborah Coco, Give Me the Mic, and that's going to be from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's on Merrick Boulevard. I'll pull up all the information. You can see me in the back, and I will give you more information. But that's my good news. I'm performing.
Hi, everybody, and God bless everybody. I'm so glad we're here together. My good news still is I'm enjoying my experience that I had at the convention. It's really something I'm just going to have, I think, till the next convention. It was so wonderful. So I'm still just really feeling really great about that. Thank you.
Now y'all got good news. We had to push it out of y'all.
Hello, everyone. I would like to let everyone know about our 12th annual Spring Fling, which is this Saturday, April 29th. It's from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Food will be served, and we would like everyone, not you, Gina, you gotta stay home. Okay, Gina? You too. You gotta stay home. Oh, no, you might be of age. But I would like everyone to come out and support the Kathy Jordan Sharpton Scholarship Fund. We will be raising money for the scholarship. And we would like each and every one of y'all that's sitting in the audience to come out, have some fun, and let's raise some money for the scholarship. Okay, guys? Come on now. Huddle family. Thank you.
Good evening, Huddle. Patrice, you reminded me, my nephew served 19 years in jail for a murder he did not commit. He's been out for maybe 7 years now, and a week or two ago, he was exonerated for the murder. So, yes, you reminded me of that. Thank you.
More good news. I love this. Mother Kennedy.
Good evening, Huddle. I wanted to share good news that was kind of humbling to me. We were invited, Roses of Gospel, which consists of Sister Joan Guest Anderson and myself. We are invited to do the devotionals at Metropolitan Baptist Church yesterday as they celebrated 111 years. I mean, we were humbled by that. And 111 years of a Black Baptist church. And you know, like back in the old days, you know, I was raised up as a Baptist. And they said, you're Baptist born, you're Baptist bred, you're Baptist wed, and when you die, you Baptist dead. So to be honored to be able to do the devotionals with the devotional team at Metropolitan Baptist Church that celebrated 111 years. That was quite an honor.
Yes, good evening. My good news concerns jobs, and I received an article from the New York Carpenters Union that new recruitment process is now in place, that effective April 12th, anyone wishing to be a part of the Carpenters Training Center now does not need to be a part of a lottery, but can simply go down to 395 Hudson Street, New York City, at the corner of Clarkson Street, on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and become a part of the Carpenters Training Center to get jobs. Thank you. Which also segues me into a second opportunity, which is I was told and was reminded that there's a place called DCAS, which stands for Department of, Citywide Administrative Services. There's a deadline tomorrow for anyone who wishes to become an oiler. That means you grease a lot of equipment. The starting salary is $60 per hour. That means after overtime, that's $90 an hour, I believe, at least. One has to pay an examination fee of $101, but I think that's a good bet on oneself. The deadline is tomorrow for that particular test, but the test actually takes place July 10th, so one can study between April 25th and July 10th. And there are a lot of other jobs similarly priced. That's the city. With the state, there are jobs that start at $87 per hour. Sometimes we forget about these jobs, so I'm just reminding young people and there are careers there that we sometimes forget about. Also, I was given a list of jobs for summer youth, but it's sent to my phone, which I don't have with me now, but I will pass that information on as soon as I retrieve them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so if y'all have any questions about anything that he just said about the jobs, y'all can go see him when we eat. Good news?
My good news is I was in Harlem yesterday. Hold it for me, sweetheart. I was at the Pastor Bird's Mother Zion AME Church for the concert of Paul Robeson. So you all heard Paul Robeson singing with his music back in the day. It is beautiful. It was a beautiful concert. And there was lots of people out for that concert. And I enjoyed that concert. I thought I was coming back home, and which I did in Harlem, because I like Harlem, and I like when I come here and I get something good from it. And that was a beautiful concert.
Okay. I'm liking the good news today. Y'all said that y'all didn't have any though, so I was kind of concerned. But I'm gonna end it off by saying my good news is that y'all spoke about y'all good news, because y'all was lying. So we're gonna move on to our Did You Know segments, because you may not have known. So come on, y'all, let's learn something today. We're gonna start off with Daniel. Clap it up for Daniel for our first Did You Know?
My Did You Know article begins with the title, Sudan Slides Towards Civil War and State Collapse. I'm going to summarize the article by reading some sections of the article. The article reveals tensions between the country's two most prominent generals exploded into full-blown battles that have sprawled across the country of some 46 million people, turning the teeming capital, Khartoum, into a ghost town and triggering a wave of refugees fleeing for safety. Now that sounds like an emergency to me. I'm not sure if you all will agree, but the article later goes on to state there's a contest for power between General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, commander of the Sudanese Armed Forces and the de facto head of state, and General Mohammed Hafmadan Daglo, universally referred to Hemedti, who heads the influential parliamentary Rapid Support Forces. Many hospitals have been forced to shut down. Armed groups of varying affiliations have looted houses and businesses. Conservatives' estimates from the World Health Organization suggest at least 400 people have been killed nationwide, with thousands more wounded. Windows have been sealed against stray bullets and the stench of death. Leading EU humanitarian official was shot and seriously injured, as were others. A host of foreign governments are trying to coordinate evacuations of their citizens from Sudan. The United States, which counts some 16,000 nationals in the country, evacuated its embassy personnel and their families in the early hours Sunday. So too did a host of other Western countries. United Nations officials are preparing for some 100,000 Sudanese refugees to arrive in the coming days. So this is pretty serious, y'all. And I've learned that it is not the first time Sudan has had a circumstance similar to the one they're currently bearing. Sudan finds itself at the center of a complicated regional chess game with Russia, just one of a web of outside powers vying for influence in Africa's third largest country. Egypt is a staunch ally of Bahrain, who attended the same military college as Egypt's own coup-plotting dictator, Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. The United Arab Emirates is publicly neutral, but enlists Hemedti RSF in waging its campaigns in Yemen. In Dubai, Hemedti has secured a lucrative emporium of the Sudanese gold concessions that he controls. So that is a summary, and my ask this evening is, were you all aware of what is currently going on in Sudan? Would anyone like to come and speak? You're welcome to come and speak. It sounds like a lot of you are saying no. Am I hearing no's? No. All right, well, with that being said, as I've summarized the articles, if anyone wants to mention what they feel may be appropriate, if they feel as though there should be more intervention to help the people of Sudan, help the country of Sudan maintain safety, as far as more evacuations or something innovative that will help save lives, you're welcome to come to the microphone. If not, please pay attention to what is going on in the world, in the motherland of Africa, because Africa has a history of being exploited. It is very important that we prioritize protecting Africa. And that's my Did You Know thus far for this evening. Amen. Let's keep Sudan in our prayers.
Thank you, Dan. So for our second Did You Know, I would like to call up Miss Dominique Sharpton. Clap her up. She'll be with us in a second.
Hello again. So this past week we saw devastating news. I think, in my opinion, is devastating. Kim Potter was released from prison after serving only 16 months for killing Daunte Wright. So she was released. This happened in Minnesota, and former officer was released at 4 o'clock in the morning because they wanted to regulate, safety concerns and the possibility of violent protests and so on. So she was released in the wee hours of the morning. But many of you know this person, Kim Potter, was sentenced to 2 years in prison by Judge Regina Chu. She was sentenced to serve 2/3 of the time, or 16 months, in prison, and a third on supervised release, assuming that there was no disciplinary offenses. And this happened in 2021. Under supervised release, that means that Kim Potter can't purchase or be in the vicinity of firearms, ammunition, or dangerous weapons. That's it. During her trial, she apologized to the Wrights family. She expressed how sorry she was, that she brought death to their loved one, that she understood a mother's love, and she expressed that she was sorry that she broke their heart. But the right says that an apology is, of course, not enough. And how could they, of course, be at peace when something like this has happened, when this officer, former officer, really didn't serve a lot of time for the death of their loved one. So the article went on to express how hard Kim Potter looked after serving 16 months, and saying that, basically, how, doing time, no matter how long it is, can have a toll on a person. And so they feel that this was enough time that she served, based on how she looked and based on some of the things she expressed she went through while she was incarcerated. But simply, said, this is an outrage. We knew that when the verdict came down, that it wasn't enough, of course, for what happened. And as it stands now, what happens as a precedent to a lot of these incidents as they continue to happen between police and civilians. So I don't know if anyone wanted to express any comments or their ideas in terms of how they feel about how the situation has played out after we've organized and demonstrated. Reverend Sharpton did the eulogy for this young man, and you saw an uprising of protests and people just angry about some of the current things that are happening. But the lady served time. She was convicted. She served the time that she was given, and now she is forced to enter back into society. So how do we feel about that?
I'm just reminded about the Texas man that was given 70 years for spitting at the police officer. And this person killed somebody, and they only spent months. Like, I think it's outrageous. Like, are you gonna tell me this Texas man for spitting at an officer is gonna actually go through all 70 years? It's not even, that's past life. You only get 20 years for life. So I just think it's so ridiculous and disappointing, but that they was being shady to let her go so early. Early in the morning, they're doing a little sneak stuff, and I just find it interesting how they can accommodate who they want to accommodate. It's just frustrating. I just think it's outrageous.
So I do want to point out that even during their trial, this comes down to accountability, and the fact that, there are different, of course, rules for different people as they commit crimes, as we know. So as you just spoke about, there's excessive sentences put on people that, whose crimes are less heinous as others. And then at the end of the day, during this particular trial, during this particular situation that happened only months after Derek Chauvin and the situation with George Floyd in the same city, the judge, utilized that incident of George Floyd and brought it into this trial, which I think there are a lot of things that happened. I think that, they could have utilized to say that this was, I think, unfairly tried to begin with. But that was one indication that the judge made notion, to actually state during her sentencing that, this is not the case where an officer, pinned down a man on the ground for 9.5 minutes. This is not that. And the fact that she alluded to another incident of heinous acts of violence that police are doing on civilians, and this situation, I think, was definitely not not professional, and definitely should have definitely been raised as influence that this trial was unfairly prosecuted and unfairly tried. And that's how I feel. But other than that, I think that. Like you said, I don't know what we can do if anyone has any ideas, but Kim Potter is now released and free, and the family of Daunte Wright, having to deal with the fact that, there was a conviction, that this person was convicted for the crime, but obviously we feel justice has been made in this situation, in this case, and how we move forward with precedents like the Kim Potter case. Sister Word is coming.
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, because I'm really not sure. Is this the one where the lady says that the cop said that she meant to pull out the taser?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't too sure about that. But there's also a reality about criminal laws. So if she's claiming like something negligent, not intentional, that's usually the lowest felony. And that time in New York State is like 2 to 4.
That's what it was.
So basically, even though it may not seem like she was given the strongest penalty, based on her defense, she was given due process. And that's something we have to really, really, really humble ourselves and accept. Because when it's one of our people who maybe be in the same situation, we will want them to be given due process too, equally. So this is what really equal justice is about. If this person got a 2 to 4, we should expect similar sentencing guidelines. So this is something we can insist on, sentencing guidelines. Now this scenario that this lady is talking about, somebody getting what, 7-0 years for spitting?
Yeah.
I have to research that. You know, I really do, because that sounds like, I mean, I haven't heard it.
That's absolutely outrageous.
7-0 years for spitting? All right, so I don't want my mind to really go like, woo, you know, but I'm gonna have to research that one.
Right.
It's strange, but thank you for sharing the article, but we needed a reminder. This is the cop who said she meant to reach for her taser, but reached for her gun. Now, we know that's a lame excuse for a professional person, but obviously, her lawyers did what they're supposed to do, defended her, and tried to get her the lowest sentence, so they did their job. So we must also insist that lawyers who are assigned to cases for other people in other communities be given due process and justice also. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Someone else have a comment?
First of all, it was like, let me count 10. I'm beginning to feel, again, how long must our people, our children, be cannon fodder? It's a hard thing. And the whole thing is I am an original Black Panther, and my Black Panther rage is coming back because I think it's time to fight back. We have to find justice by any means necessary for our people. And I'm speaking kind of calmly because I'm very, very angry and I'm kind of upset. And I'm praying over this, but I want to know, where are our Black Panther brothers and sisters?
Thank you. No one else? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm turning it back over to Giselle.
Okay, y'all. Thank you, Dom. So, just fix myself real quick. Oh, this was in response to. You responding? Oh.
It's the same things was being portrayed on this person that's George Floyd. They had this officer, a female, had her knee on this man's neck. And I thought they weren't supposed to be doing the neck anymore, or you shouldn't, any way of harming a person shouldn't be allowed. But it seems like they don't understand the law, and they are officers, and they should know better. You don't put your neck on anybody's neck. I wouldn't put my knee on anybody's neck, not even an animal. And I thought that was so unfair. And this man, you could see him, to me, it brought back memories of George Floyd and others. that has gone through the same thing. And I think there should be something done about it. We got to stand even more and stronger. I have grandsons, great-grandsons, and grandsons. I wouldn't want that to happen to them or any other young man. And it only happens to a certain people of brown and black. I don't see these other people, kids being choked to death, shot to death. I don't see it, and it's not supposed to be with any race of people. So we're going to have to stand and stand and stand. I'll be on the cane, but I will be standing for justice, because we are not getting all of our justice. It's just degrading. I look at little Al over there, little Marcus. He got to grow up. Would that be going on in his day? I mean, as long as they're cute as little buttons when they're little, but don't let them get past 15 or 16. Then they look like they are macho men, and they got to take them down, and they got to abuse them. If they don't choke, if they're not choking them to death, they are, what is it, the other one that they're doing? They choke holes, and they are shooting them. I mean, you shoot a young man, you're cutting his life off. He's paralyzed. He can't perform anything. He can't raise his family because you shot him in his leg and you thought that was okay. No, it's not okay. I've been on the road out there running for a long time, and I'm not tired yet, and I don't intend to stop. I'll be in Washington. I will be in Washington if I have to start crawling there, because I'm sick and tired of this. I am sick and tired. I have 3 sons, and they have went through things with the police chasing them. And Howard Beach, my son said they had to run out of Howard Beach some years back. So we got to put an end to this. I don't want to see our kids being the only one, they look so animal looking to them, to the other people. They are not. They're just like your children. And they must be treated like your children. So we're gonna stand and stand and stand for what is right and for justice.
Thank you. Yes, clap that up one more time. So, third, did you know? See how that rhymed? No? Okay. You have yours truly. Let's stop. So, my did you know is about a 15-year-old boy who died because he committed suicide, because he was being bullied in school. So we're gonna get into it. So, this is his mother speaking right now. No other parent should have to go through what I've gone through, and I want to do whatever I can to make sure they don't. My son Nigel was 15 years old when he passed away. Nigel was funny, he had a heart of gold, his smile would brighten up anyone's day. Nigel was also gay. Throughout his freshman year at Huntsville High School in Huntsville, Alabama, he was constantly bullied and harassed by classmates because of his sexual orientation. When he sought help from school administrators, they did nothing. The school never told me what was happening to Nigel. I didn't find out that he was being harassed until after his death. At first, I thought that my son's struggles with being accepted just got to be too much, and that's why he chose suicide. So when I was on social media and I saw the hashtag Justice for Nigel, I was confused. Justice for Nigel? My baby died by suicide, I thought. There's no need for justice. But that was me speaking as a parent who didn't know that all of this other stuff had transpired. I needed to find out what had actually happened. Why did Nigel think that suicide was his only option? What I learned devastated me. Nigel was constantly tormented with homophobic slurs. His classmates even told him to kill himself for being gay. Instead of intervening, a school administrator told Nigel that being gay was a choice and that he needed to live with the consequences. As I alleged in my legal complaint, when a friend brought Nigel to an administrator's office. Concerned for his well-being, the administrator asked him whether this was another one of his episodes where life is getting too hard and things get tough and we want to kill ourselves. The administrator, who is white, also allegedly told him he should dance to black people's music to make himself feel better. Feel better freely as children. It's not just about holding the school accountable, it's about holding the administration, the parents, the other students, everybody accountable. In 2021, 2 years after Nigel died, I filed the aforementioned federal lawsuit against the Huntsville City Board of Education for ignoring the anti-gay harassment that Nigel suffered. The lawsuit was about bringing change. It wasn't about the money. There is no amount of money in the world that could ever replace Nigel. Instead, this lawsuit was about potentially saving somebody else's child so they don't have to go through the horrible tragedy that I have. Last month, to settle this case, the school district agreed to take important steps to properly respond to anti-LGBTQ harassment in its schools and to improve the school's climate for all of LGBTQ students. I hope the changes brought by this settlement create a safe space for kids of the LGBTQ community to be able to express themselves and be who they are without the fear of being judged, treated differently, or discriminated against. I hope it educates school administrators on how to better interact with those kids and give them a better understanding of the words they should use when they are having conversations with these children. I hope it gets better for the whole community. We will be a lot better off if we will understand that just because certain people have different thoughts, feelings, or beliefs than you, it doesn't mean they're wrong and you're right, or vice versa. I hope that these changes will be a foundation for a better school system to take better care of our students and kids. Wow. So before I end off, I'm gonna say the number you should dial if you need help. This is also a suicide line if you are feeling down. Dial 988 or call 1-800-273-8255 for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So if y'all need that, we'll give it to y'all again individually. So y'all can have that because that's important. Some people don't know about that, but I feel like that's important that we have that so we can prevent children from doing this if they need somebody to talk to and they can't talk to anybody in their household. So I do have a question for you guys. So as we know, the Board of Education got filed for a lawsuit, and also they got in trouble for the neglect to do anything and for also not the neglect for telling the parent, not telling the parent. But the question is, what happens to the tormentor? What happens to the bully? So if anybody wants to come up, the question is basically, what should happen to the tormentors? What should happen to the bullies legally? Like, what do you guys think we can do to give consequence to the tormentor? Not in a, don't say some horrific stuff now. Don't, these are still children, but because they're still students and they're still going to school, what are some legal ways we can give these children consequences? Since the only people here that got the consequences was the Board of Education and the teachers.
All right, so before I begin, I want to know what state this took place in. Alabama. Okay, I've worked as a teacher in the 80s, and teaching today is very, very different. Teachers today are afraid of being charged with crimes for simply talking about sexual lifestyles and choices. So because we have that basic understanding, children need to be able to go to their family and share whatever is happening to them in school. The responsibility that we would presume to be on the Board of Education, they're scared of losing their jobs. So I don't know how she's going to win that lawsuit if this same thing is happening in Alabama like it's happening in Florida, where teachers are actually criminalized for even trying to teach the basics. So with this child who obviously had a gay lifestyle, what I questioned when I heard the article is that his mother is claiming that she didn't know. Yeah, that was kind of strange to me. Because I would figure if this child obviously was out as a gay person, family has to know it. So,
So she knew that he was gay. She didn't know that he was being bullied.
okay. All right, so thank you for clarifying that. So any parent of a gay child knows their child is being teased. It just goes with the choice.
She didn't know that he was being teased at all.
Oh, no, it's understood that a child is going to be teased for being gay. It's just understood, as far as I'm concerned. So a parent needs to check in regularly with their child who is now living a gay lifestyle. Even if the child doesn't even come to them with a complaint, the parent must be able to encourage their child to at least be able to ignore or not absorb the bullying. It's going to take place. I mean, you can get bullied for whatever reason, not just being gay. It could be for hair, for body type. We all have to be encouraged to just do our best to keep on keeping on in the midst of that. For whatever reason, yeah, we have to really encourage all students, regardless. Some students are even teased for being A students. I mean, for any reason. So, yes, it's a real situation, and some children have been so teased that they drop out of school. You know, so this bullying is like a wide spectrum of it, and we just have to really encourage students in general, deal with whatever bullying there is, and always in some way communicate, well, whatever, I'm still loved, whatever. And if they say that often enough, they won't absorb the emotional trauma that obviously is designed to inflict. But I noticed that in these articles, most of the children who have committed suicide, and I may be kind of like not really clear on it, but it always seems to be most of the time on this subject of sexuality. And again, too, we have to understand that it's just a slur. No one has to absorb it. There are people who are told you're gay because you wear a color, or you walk a certain way, or you talk a certain way. So we, as teachers, need in some way have to get around these threats of being fired. So we can always teach. This is what I'm going to respond to your question. Even if a teacher can't particularly go on the subject of sexuality, color, whatever the restrictions are, you can always encourage a child to have their own self-esteem, regardless. So there's ways that teachers have to be a little more innovative in how they're going to teach and strengthen their students if they really care about their students the way they're supposed to care. Now, I know personally, if I was teaching today, I would get around that. I would know how to really encourage a child to really be full of love for themselves and for people who really love them, and not really give the voices of bullies so much headspace or so much emotional space in their lives. So teachers have to really get on their job and be creative if they're really about helping students. Be safe, if you want to keep your job, but there's still a way you can help students not be so bullied. Now, in terms of dealing with bullies, you just don't really want to waste your time dealing with them. I've really had to make a choice because you end up screaming and paying so much attention to bullies, you don't pay attention to the students who really need your care. So for the most part, even as a teacher, I had to really shut them down personally because I'm not going to give too much time to them. So teachers have to be really creative and do the job they can within the boundaries that are now growing for teachers, but definitely encourage a child to really love themselves and stay with people who love them, period. That's it, and that's all.
Okay, so I partially agree with what she said, but I want to keep in mind to y'all that the question is, what actions can we take to get these tormentors some consequences?
Well, in terms of educating, training, something around the teachers, the first thing I would recommend is to watch the movie To Serve with Love, because he had to deal with the jerkiest of jerks. And at the end, they all loved him, and they all actually cooperated. And he also was successful because the teacher was being loving as well as disciplined. Second thing is, I grew up being bullied. I was wearing glasses. They was calling me Four Eyes, Cyclops, Seymour, all these names. Oh my God, every day. One day, I don't blame you. One day, the guys was, and they actually had a name. They used my last name, Veer. Tony Veer got in the rear, got gonorrhea, cannot hear, so he had to go to the rear to get out of here. That was their good morning to me. So I know what it's like perfectly to get bullied. But I'm pretty sure the thing that saved me was my mother. Because my mother loved me, and she didn't take no stuff. She was strictly disciplined, but she treated me like an adult. You're grown up, you can handle this. But she always looked at me like she loved me, like I was the Empire State Building, that she just loved me that much, even though she was tough as all get out. And then I have to admit, growing up in Reverend Ike's church helped me a lot too, because I was Mrs. Veer's son in the church. But really, it's like, if the parent can see what's really going on and really see the child's purpose in life, their greatest gifts, skill sets, and help them focus on that, it'll help them overcome the bullying a lot. And this is why last time I was on the mic, I talked about life purpose. That's what's key. And the teachers need to learn how to identify and pull out the life purpose of students as well as the parents. Like, everybody needs to do that. If we do that, there won't be no more war. I'm done.
I think the kid that did the bullying needs lifetime counseling. And I also want to ask, can all the gay and lesbian people that are in this room, can we come up here? Can we come up here? Can we come up here? Thank you. Can we come up here? Listen, thank you, thank you, thank you. This is what we look like, yes, thank you. I leave out my house looking like this every day because this is how I want to show myself to the world. I was on a bus one day, and this little girl asked her mother, "Is that a man or a woman?" And her mother hit her and said, "Don't say that." And I said, don't do that. I walked out my house looking like that. Don't know. Man or woman, whichever one you see me as, that's what I am. I don't have no shame with he or she or whatever. And that's some of the things that I have to deal with. Going in malls, going in public restrooms, the security guard running behind me. Sir, you can't go in the women's bathroom. And it's like, I turn around and give him the, look, I'm a woman, you know, and that's some of the things that that I have to deal with. And I've learned, and I've been fortunate enough to have women like them take me under their wing and tell me things and show me things. It really helped me be a standing up member of society.
All right. You know, actually, I one time, Huddle people, we really like to have time to explain who we are, what we are, and why we started doing this in the first place. You know, I'm 84 years old, and I've been out the closet. I tell everybody, I got children, grandchildren, 31 great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. So I'm the gayest great-great-grandmother out the closet. We treat these things with humor, but it all started in 1969 when we, as gay and lesbian people, black, white, blue, or green, got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Got sick and tired of the police. You talk about police brutality? Every weekend, the cops would go in and raid the bars. And in those days, they'd bring police matrons. They wouldn't even call women in those days police officers. They called them police matrons. And when they came into the village and they raided these bars, if a guy didn't have on 2 pieces of male underwear, he was beaten up, thrown in a paddy wagon, A lot of times, some of our people were even found floating in the Hudson River. I said those police officers down in the village, their wives had to be very, very happy because they took the jewelry. So everybody would wear their finest on the weekends. And they would beat them up, take their jewelry, and cart them off to jail. The police matron was there to search the women, and if they didn't have on 2 pieces of female clothing, bras and panties, they were beaten up and thrown in jail. So then finally, like, it got to the place where everybody got sick and tired of being sick and tired. It happened after Judy Garland died. When they went back to the Stonewall Inn in 1969, that was the last raid that the cops pulled on the Stonewall Inn. Thank you. Now, at that time in '69, we didn't know that it was going to turn out to be a whole, movement. But the thing is, as the years went on, people began to find their own voice. And unfortunately, and I've talked about this before, when it goes back to a lot of religiosity, it goes back to what was said in the Bible. Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because of homosexuality. Scientific proof that Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed because volcanic eruption. That's what destroyed the city. But people have taken that, and unfortunately what happens is, a lot of times when the knee gets off the neck, or the person's foot is off the neck, then once they stand up, then they look for other necks to step on. So over the years, and it's 53 years since Stonewall, and we're still fighting. And I'm glad to see that in this day and time, there is tolerance. And yes, a lot of acceptability. We have come a long, long way. Some churches, we have Metropolitan Community Church, we have Unity Fellowship Church, we have churches that are accepting of us as who we are. And like I said, one of the things that was honorable to me, having been on doing that, the emotion of the fact that I was accepted at this church, Metropolitan Baptist Church. It's 111 years old. And I was also the assistant to the musical director before Kareem Felder even came into that church. Maybe you all might remember Kareem Felder. He played here for a while. And so, over the years, we have stood our ground and fought for our people. The Trevor Project is one of the areas that deals with teenage suicide and young gay people. And you see, what happens is, a lot of times, people have to know, I can't speak for others, but I'll speak for myself. I know I was born this way. I knew since the age of 9 years old. And my mother always said, oh, come to me and tell me everything. And it was fine as long as it was in the house. But when it started getting around Saratoga Springs about me and the girls, then that's when my mother married me off at 14 years of age for being gay, trying to cure me. Well, it didn't work, but anyway. But anyway, there is a lot of things that we can do. We can help our young people, and then, we just continue on, keeping on, keeping on.
Is it gonna be quick? Okay.
Because we seem to have derailed a little bit with some very vital, important information. I want to circle back to where we were, because we're discussing a young man that killed himself, committed suicide because he was bullied. And the question is, what can we do to reprimand and be sequential to the bullying? And I think it's important for us to understand that there are ways that we can influence those that are bullying others to become less of a bully or not a bully once they realize the flaws in their ways. And I think one way that the bullies can be reprimanded with the consequences to take away some of their privileges, such as access to intramural activities, access to sporting engagements as far as participation, if those bullies are athletes and they want to compete athletically, they should not be contributing to the psychological damage of a young, impressionable mind. So we should take away some of those privileges. We should have them write reactions as to what their current feelings are now that that person is no longer alive, now that that person has terminated their life prematurely, so that way we can understand what it is that their forethought is after the fact and try to create some type of analysis to communicate to that young person who happens to be growing into an adult so that they can improve their interpersonal skills so they're not negatively impacting the lives of others. So let's focus on that. And I think that that will create some improvement and also help these people realize it is not all right to be a bully, because you wouldn't want someone to bully you that way.
Right? So that concludes my Did You Know? Thank you, everybody that came up and spoke. I would like to get on to the fourth one, Mr. Mo Bars. Clap it up for him, y'all.
Good evening, y'all. So we're going to be talking about following up on Mr. Ralph Yall. In wake of Ralph Yall, shooting black teens face fear and resignation. Justin Moreau is not quite a teenager yet. The 12-year-old likes playing basketball and laughing at his big brother's jokes. He's not exactly sure what he wants to be when he grows up, but he can see himself being a business owner. What the sixth grader does know is that not all cops are actually going to help you in the situation that you're in, he said, recalling his mother's advice. Like many black moms, Catrice Fuller has had the talk with her young sons. It's a rite of passage for black children. The somber conversation about the special rules they must adhere to when talking to police, or to place their hands when pulled over in a traffic stop, tips on how to avoid becoming a target. People are more likely to think they're dangerous, they're told, so be careful. But a new fear is creeping into the talk in the wake of the recent shooting of a black teen in Kansas City, Missouri. There have been tearful conversations, new rules about interacting with strangers, and for some, a sense of resignation. It's another sign, parents say, that black children, particularly boys, which research has found are often seen as older and bigger than they are by people of other races, are at risk. On a quest to pick up his siblings from a friend's house, 16-year-old Ralph Yall mistakenly rang the doorbell of the wrong home. The white man who opened the door, Andrew Lester, 84 years old, told police that he was scared to death by the late-night visitor shooting him twice, once in the head and then again in the arm after Yall fell to the ground. With each new tragedy, there is also a growing sense of desensitization to the violence affecting black children, families say. While parents say they are doubling down on measures to keep their children safe, from tracking their movements through cell phone apps to stacking their schedules with activities to avoid trouble, they say it can feel futile in a climate hostile toward black children. The Ralph Yall story did shake me, said Fuller, a D.C. resident who has 4 sons, including Justin, who range in age from 3 to 13 years old. It's not uncommon that my 12 and 13-year-olds would grab their little brothers from an activity or something. Yall survived the April 13th shooting and has returned home to recover, but Yall's mother, Cleo Nagby, has said the residual effect of Yall's injuries is going to stay with her son for quite a while. A GoFundMe started by Yall's aunt has raised more than $3 million and has spoken to President Biden. Meanwhile, has been charged with 2 felonies, including first-degree assault, and faces up to life in prison. He pleaded not guilty. The Kansas City, Missouri shooting has sparked protests across the state by activists who complain local police didn't act quick enough to arrest Yall's shooter, and rekindled debate about the easy access of guns and when it's appropriate to use lethal force for self-defense. It's also prompted many conversations within black households about how teens can avoid similar situations. Matthew, 14, a black 8th grader at a private Catholic school north of Atlanta, learned about the shooting from his mother. My mom said, "Did you hear about that boy that was shot when he went to pick up his siblings?" I didn't know about it, and she told me about it, and it made me feel like that could happen to me when I start driving, said Matthew. The teenager who plays basketball, football, and runs track has 12 and 10-year-old siblings. If he's ever tasked with bringing them home, he'll be careful, Matthew said. I'll make sure I'm at the right house. I'll call my brother and ask him to come outside, he said. He has also been thinking of ways to stop the next shooting, Matthew said. This wouldn't happen as much if gun control was a thing. People aren't going to run outside and kill you with a knife. People are less likely to be harmed if they couldn't use guns. Matthew's mother, Almaz, 49, said it's easy to imagine her child in Yarl's place. I just want my son to know that the world is like and can be careful. Children are so innocent and unaware, and I can totally see any of my children making a mistake like that, said Almaz, who asked that her family's last name not be published to protect their privacy. And even now, I considered sending my daughter across the street to give her Girl Scout cookies to a customer, but I said, no, no, no. She can go to the wrong house and possibly suffer the same fate. Todd Jones, a black Atlanta 14-year-old, says he doesn't want to be paralyzed by the fear of what might happen to him if he knocks on the wrong door. I thought about it happening to me, said Jones, who loves basketball, baseball, and music. But if I walk around being scared of everything and everyone around me, I won't get anything done in life. His mom says she hasn't spoken to him specifically about Yarl. If you're having these heavy conversations as frequently as these horrible things are happening, I personally feel that's still in his childhood and any joy he can have as a kid, said Tisha Jones. It's just another burden for children already navigating a world in which they are often singled out because of their skin color. We don't want to exist in fear, but especially as he is getting older and will bring out in the world more independently. I can't help but worry, she said. I know that all moms worry, but there is an extra layer of worry. To know that a judgment can be passed on him on sight because he's a black boy is just too scary for me. 13-year-old Tyrell Monroe, the brother of Justin Monroe, says he has been thinking about his safety in the days since Yarl was shot, but doesn't want the threat of violence to affect his everyday life. When I'm outside, I don't think about it as much, but I'm still conscious about it, he said. To avoid trouble, he keeps to himself. I try to be in my own lane when I'm outside. Almost done. He doesn't feel free, Tyrell says, including to do simple things outside, like telling jokes. People might not understand his dark sense of humor, he always says, and it could put me in danger. Personal safety was already a frequent topic at home after repeated shootings of young people in the district. Last month, a former classmate, 17-year-old Delano Martin, was fatally shot in the back by U.S. Park Police. The Justice Department has opened a civil rights investigation in the Martin shooting. This week, the brothers recited their mother's reminders to be aware of their surroundings and look out for each other. If they found themselves in danger, they would try their best to de-escalate the situation and get away. Underneath their cool exterior, their mother senses something else may be going on. They don't push to go outside. They don't push to go to social gatherings, she said. She worries they are becoming desensitized to the violence affecting black children. It's just another one, Fuller said. And she knows there are limits to how much she can do. Tyrell, the 13-year-old, is approaching 6 feet tall and has locks growing past his shoulders, which his mom fears can make it more likely others will see him as a threat. The 13-year-old is also on the autism spectrum, inviting even more assumptions. His hands may flap, his eyes will flutter, she said, references some of the repetitive behaviors Tyrell displays in stressful situations. She warned him, they won't think, oh, I'm looking at you as a kid, spectrum, a 4.0 GPA student. They can't see that when they're looking at you. News about racist incidents, along with racism itself, takes a toll on young people's mental health, research shows. In a survey conducted by the AAKOMA Project, a mental health nonprofit, 18% of young people of color said they had experienced racial trauma often or very often in their lives. More than half of the respondents said they have dealt with anxiety, depression, or both, said Alfred Bretland Noble, a psychologist at a Coma Project founding. Children are not only reeling from racism, but other stressors, including the lingering effects of the social isolation they experienced during the pandemic. These young people are experiencing the negative impacts of what it means to have a marginalized identity, said Noble, who has a black 16-year-old son. She added that many parents assume their children are too young to have anything to worry about, but data shows that's not true at all. The first thing parents have to do is we have to be willing to close our mouths and open our ears to our children. We have to acknowledge that our young people are dealing with things that sometimes we don't know anything about. Elaine Dwyer, an 18-year-old high school senior from East Orange, New Jersey, said that she is not confident that anything will change anytime soon. You're always going to be seen as a threat. As much progress as this country or the world will ever make, because there's so many stigmas and stereotypes about the black community, is going to be so hard, she said. Until recently, Dwyer lived and attended high school in Randolph, PA, a mostly white and affluent suburb in Philadelphia, through a program called A Better Chance that places students of color in homes in the suburbs with adult supervision. Dwyer said that she felt isolated at the school and in the community, and it began affecting her mental health. She decided to leave the middle school in the middle of the year and transfer to her school in her hometown. The 4 years of living in a mostly white community took a toll on me, she said. You have to put your best foot forward at all times, she said. But it shouldn't even be like that, where you have to prove to people that you're not a threat. It's exhausting. You get burnt out being in a community where you feel welcoming and exhausting. America needs to address its gun problem and its systemic racism, she says, but society may already be broken at a more fundamental level. At the end of the day, it's like you don't feel safe with anywhere, to be honest. There's just a lot of stuff happening, so it's about being cautious, he said. We need to go back to the basics, just being kind to other people. Kindness is really important, and people overlook that a lot and take that for granted. So, I know that was a lot. So my first question is, what is the best age to begin talking to our young black sons about encounters with law enforcement? I just want to hear some opinions on what age should you start talking to them, and what should you say early on? Because if you notice in the article, one of the parents said she doesn't want to talk about it every time it happens because she doesn't want to frighten the children or mess up their youth and make them in fear of, going out and moving around. So my first question is, what age should you start talking to our young sons of color, and what specifically should you talk to them about when dealing with law enforcement and going out into public and moving around? I especially want to hear from parents and stuff, so come up. I heard somebody say 12, but let me know why.
I'm a parent. My son is 21 now, but I feel that the age should be whatever age you start letting them leave independently. So summer youth usually lets you start letting your child work around 12 and 14. So I think that you should talk to your child about these things at the age you're gonna not be accompanying them. Right? So you're not gonna be there to escort them, because we all know that people do tend to treat young people mean. I remember I was sitting on a train with my son. He was sitting across from me, and a person came on the train and told him to get up. And it was so crazy, because she just sees a youth. I just felt like if you really watch, they just pick on youth. And if we don't allow them opportunity to speak on these things, you don't know what they go through. Like when they go to the store, sometimes they rush them and they don't try to give them their money right. And if they have to assert themselves to try to get the change, the proper change, the adult doesn't respect them. So our youth go through those things, and it's best when they're gonna be independent, you're gonna go without them to explain these things, because they tend to try to get, especially the black youth, the black male youth, they try to get them to get agitated easy, and they'd be disrespectful right away. Because one time my son was my son was young. I was with him, but I wasn't directly next to him. He was at the Chase Bank, and somebody called him a boy, and my son said, "Don't refer to me as boy, my name," and he told him that his name, and I was like, these are things that we can't, not that everybody might have agreed with me, but I was saying, don't get agitated by these little things that they're doing, because they're doing it on purpose. They're trying to get you agitated, trying to get you angry, and these things are not that important. We gotta let it slide off the back, and I don't think it's fair, but we have to let them know it's not fair, but we have to tolerate certain things. And I think that the best thing to do is being in environments like this, where we're with our own people, and we can express ourselves, and we understand each other. Because I don't feel afraid. I don't feel afraid here. I don't feel afraid when we was at the conference. There was thousands of people coming, and if I was gonna get nervous, that's not going to help me. You know, we have to find a place where we're comfortable. And if we can assist our child in being in an environment where they're comfortable, I think that's the best. And one of the things in the article that I get frustrated about is when it comes to budget cuts in the city, they go right away for after-school programs and our community centers. So they do target the children immediately. They act like we don't have to fund their programs, and it's wrong. And I feel that when it comes to programs, they assist children in the age of 6 to 12, and after the age of 12, they don't really worry about them, and that's wrong. That's really wrong because our older teenagers still want to have fun. And like things I think would be great is having football programs, having basketball clinics, having taking them to great adventures and stuff where their big people can enjoy themselves, because bigger people still enjoy amusement parks. And we have to allow them to still just be kids, because they're still kids and they want to have fun, but let them be at places where they can be at their height, because they're, you know, being in the regular park, some parents with their young children do get worried. You see all those teenagers come in and they right away, they get worried for their kids. They do. So we need to have places, and I don't think they do a good job with that. I think they cut the programs immediately, especially in the poor neighborhoods, and they act like they don't know why they don't have anything for them to do. It's wrong, and they give them just video games and stuff to play. So I don't think that's right.
Thank you so much. Very well put.
I'm a parent. My daughter is 37. My son is 35. I think a parent should talk to their child about violence when the parent feels comfortable. I think both of my children were under 10 when I spoke to them about the police and how they should move throughout the playground. And that's the same time I talked to them about safer sex, too. You know, I didn't leave nothing out with my children. I just spilled it out. I didn't wait for them to become a teenager or, you know, or out alone by themselves. Nope. Fill them in age appropriately. That's what I did. As they grew up, I filled them in a little bit more and a little bit more. But I took them for the age that they were and filled them in a little bit and just went along as they grew.
Thank you. Ms. Word?
All right, I'm going to say that as soon as a child is able to talk and observe and ask questions, because the child who's in the community is going to see people in uniform. So as soon as the child sees a person in uniform, explain who that person is based on the uniform. Explain to the child how one should be approached, and also how the child should respond as soon as they're able to talk. In terms of, I mean, that's my basic answer to that one. Now, I just want to touch on this subject because we can't allow these people to use the excuse of a child's size to explain why they were fearful. That is not a defense. It's not justification at all. And why should a parent be concerned about how their child is height or hair? No, it's too much of a burden to keep placing on black people. And we should not accept it. We should not feel no way about, well, genetics, you have no control over that. But if these so-called racist people want to use it as an excuse, don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. And if I want to be real technical, because I spoke to a woman about that, there's enough black people in high places. We've had a black president. We have a black female vice president. We have the Jadens or the Justins. There's enough evidence of decent black people for white people to stop using that excuse. So we can't even let that be a defense. We should not even try to really explain it away. Oh yeah, they could have thought that this young man was like 20-something years old. That's a cop-out. It doesn't matter. The person is a human being. That's all that really should be concerning in terms of prosecuting this person. Don't go for the okie doke, for real.
All right. My next question is more so for you guys to okay, so the second question is, but it's for you guys to send to guys and girls. So, and yeah. Should the right to bear arms be rewritten? So I would rather you guys write out your answers and send that to what's on your mind at nationalactionnetwork.net so it can be read out on Saturday. So the question is, should the right to bear arms be rewritten? Should it be rewritten? Because can we really have gun law change without also just rewriting the right to bear arms? Because that was created at a time where it was based on, the militias and stuff. Now we have an Department of Defense, so things are different. And, in order to change gun laws, make sure certain people don't get firearms, people having to go through psychological, it's very easy to get guns in those stand your ground states, in those states below the Mason-Dixon. So when we talk about changing gun laws and who should have them and who shouldn't have them, we might have to change the whole spectrum of the law and the bill itself. So if you have any view on that, please send that to what's on your mind at nationalactionnetwork.net so it'll be read out on Saturday. Love.
Yo, you didn't get me though. Thank you, Mo. So that was our last Did You Know? Everybody clap it up for that. Y'all know y'all wanted to. I'm going to close us out in prayer. Y'all know me, real quick, real easy, real simple. So I would like everybody to bow their heads, please, and thank you. Dear God, I thank everybody for being with us today, for coming in safe and sound. I hope everybody goes home and returns to where they came from, safe and sound. I hope everybody says please and thank you when you're getting your food, and amen.